podcast. Okay. I can't believe you just said that. Welcome to the show. My guests today are Zach and Sophie.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourselves?
Start with me. Yes. Australian born and raised. Grew up on the Gold Coast. I've been in Calgary for almost 7 years now. Actually, it'll be 7 years this year. I have my own clothing company. I started this podcast in the middle of last year. I focus a lot on mental health and a lot of other things as well. I wear many hats of the things that I do on a daily basis, to say the least. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
And Zach?
Well, I was born in Tanzania, East Africa. Came to Canada at 4 months old. And similar to Sophie, what she had brought up was mental health. It's been something that hit me later in my 30s, not prior to. So you trip, fall, get up, and you don't realize what's going on until sometimes it's that breaking point. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of what happened to me. During that time, I realized I wasn't alone and that there are great people out there. Sophie, yourself, and so many others that are opening up the doors for others. And I think that's the power of community. And I think that's what, Sophie's doing. That's what you're doing, is giving us a voice and a window to talk. And it's been great. So started the Canadian podcast in 2021, January. Oh, wow. Close to 200 guests have come on. And it's just been a variety of folks from all walks of life, athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, veterans. And what I think I love about all of that is, we can all talk about the highs and the success of life. And, again, we know this. Instagram is a highlight reel of our life, right? We're always showing the smiles. But what about the other side? And that's what I wanted to know is the downs, because we can always talk about the highs, but let's talk about the lows a bit and how you got out of that. Because we've all been in the shits. We've all been in the ground. How the hell did we get out?
Yeah.
So it's been great.
Mm-hmm. I find that, one of the biggest things that I've learned personally with that as well is that the highs are high and the lows are very, very low. And I think a lot of people don't really recognize that either. It's just they don't understand the aspect of it. And it's not until you actually sit with it and you feel it and you deal with it. I mean, as you said, it's, I'm in my mid-30s, and that's how, last year it was just from a relationship of 4 months that turned my whole life upside down. It was something so extravagant, but not at the same time. It didn't feel like that, but it completely shifted my whole entire life. And that's what the podcast came from. And it came from a completely different shift in my life. And it was the best thing to ever happen to me.
Yeah. And you can feel alone at the low parts because you always share the high points, and then nobody knows about the low points.
I think it's really important as well that I feel like it's becoming a lot more natural for people to feel the vulnerability and to actually express it and to not feel bad about it either. And I think obviously with social media, creating content, it's, as you said, it is the highlight reel, but I think it's really important to actually show that it is normal. It is normal to feel the way that you feel when you are vulnerable, when you are sad. And I think that the more that you do put that out there and people continuously put that out there is what brings other people out of it as well, because they can see that they can be vulnerable, whether or not it's men, it's women, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter of your age. You can be in your 60s, you can be in your 20s. It does not matter. I think it's just really important that people can see that you can do that and you can have a safe space for that.
Yeah.
I agree with it.
There's sometimes a weird response on the internet, like that people just want attention if they post something at a low point. Mm-hmm. The comments are weirdly negative for some reason.
Right.
Yeah, and I find that personally, I think that is a reflection of someone who is dealing with it and they're not willing to, open up about that themselves. And I think it's incredibly powerful when someone puts themselves out there. It is terrifying. I mean, I've done it. I remember the first time I did it. And one of the biggest things that I've had to tell myself as well is that it is okay to be seen. No matter what position you are in, it is safe to be seen and it is okay, because everyone's going to have their opinions. There are people who are going to follow you and who are going to like you, not going to like you. But I think if you are confident with how you feel and it's helping you, do whatever the fuck you want. I'm sorry, can we swear on here?
Amen to that. Amen to what you said.
Put it out there. I think it's powerful to other people. It's so powerful to other people. When people see that, they have a comfort in them.
Yeah. Just like Zach was saying, like you eventually find out you're not alone once everyone shares.
Yeah.
Well, what happens is I think, like Sophie said, it's like you break that stigma, right? And if you go out there and you show, hey, this is me, because we all have a mask. We all have these masks. I have a mask on right now. Then I have a mask when I'm alone at home. I have a mask with my dad, you know, and each one of us has these masks and we take them off and we switch them. But if you can just be who you are, your true, authentic, genuine self, I think you will vibrate at a level and you'll find this frequency of people that gravitate towards you. Not everyone's going to love you. Not everyone's going to, you know, say, yeah, oh, Sophie's sad today. Let's reach out to her. Because half the time they'll just look and scroll. I know, you know, we're in this goldfish era, 5-second memory, and let's go. So how do we find the right people? And I think once you do, it's a big hug. Isn't it a big hug? Once you opened up, you're free. You're free from the thing that was holding you down, that anchor. And I think it's a beautiful journey. And like I say, it's a journey. It's not a destination, because we're always going to be on it. I think till the last heartbeat.
Yeah, it doesn't ever stop. It will never stop. And I think that's the thing that people also need to understand is, you know, you can have these goals and you want to be able to achieve different things, but it's never going to stop because you're always going to keep wanting something. And I think it's really important that people actually sit with where they are and understand that where they are is important as well. Because, I mean, I never did that. I was always so focused on what can I do next week? Where am I going to be next year? This is where I want to be now. Whereas when I actually stopped, and it wasn't until I did the podcast, it wasn't until last year that I went through the things that I went through, that it was, I sat with where I was and how I felt and what I needed to change within myself. And I mean, 6 months, I'm not the person I was 6 months ago. And I mean, I've expressed this before on my podcast as well, is that I think it is really special that we acknowledge the versions of the people that we turn into, and also the versions that we used to be that are no longer, like, we are no longer that version of ourselves anymore. And I think it's also something, again, it's a powerful thing, and it's with any man, any woman, it's to acknowledge that the version of who we were is also a special person that made us to get to where we are.
You know, I feel like we all have these aha moments in life.
Yeah.
And I have a question for you, Sophie. Oh God, the podcasting starts. What was your moment? When did you realize, okay, something's not right here. I need to recalibrate my life. And I say it so easily, but it's never like that. You know, it's that isolation. It's that loneliness. It's like, pause the world for a second. I need to go within. And it's,
I think, I mean, there are many things in my life that I've, like a lot of traumatizing things that I've been through, and a lot of really, really tough things that I've been through, especially being on the other side of the world without my family. There's been many moments of the downfall and the isolation, and I personally choose sobriety, but then I isolate myself and I don't talk to anyone, so I don't leave my house. And that happened last year as well, I think, I don't think it was necessarily the breakup that was the sole purpose of, you know, the whole turmoil of where I was at. It was the realization that I have been giving everything 120%, 200% to everyone else other than myself. And that was the aha moment for me. And that was the moment where I was sitting with myself and I was depressed, and I obviously needed to go home back to my family again and be with them. But it was that moment that I realized that I wasn't choosing myself.
right. Isn't it interesting that if you hadn't broken up and you stayed in that relationship and you're like, okay, life would have been, great, like in that moment, because you don't know anything else. But once you go through that hardship, there's a lesson learned, and you've leveled up.
Yeah.
There's a whole different person here. And you look at the old you. How are you gentle with yourself? Because oftentimes we can put shame on ourselves, and that's hard. Like, we're our own worst critic, aren't we?
Yeah, and I think you would have probably just delayed, right?
Yeah.
If you didn't break up then, you would have broken up later, and you probably would have got to this point eventually.
Yeah.
But what about for you? The same question.
Well, for myself, I think, my mom passed away in 2019, brain cancer, August 7th, and she had just turned 55. And it messed with me so much because mom was my pillar. I have a younger sister. She's 33 now, so I'm 35, so she's 2 years younger than me. And, we're just the four of us. So the world changed, life changed. My sister has a husband, so she, they're okay. Dad's okay. He's by himself too. But I didn't know what to do with myself. I have a little French bulldog, and I didn't know what to do other than hang out with my buddy. And, the alcohol just started rising, going up and up and up. And I had a breaking point. And, it was just, I was so done with life. So done. And all of a sudden, I woke up one day in the morning, and I said, November 25th, 2020, because we're in this pandemic. Mom's gone. What's going on with the world? Everything is effed up, So I woke up and I said, okay, I got to get help. Like, there's nobody here to save me. No one's going to come. I'm on the floor. I hung over, obviously, and I looked online on Zoom, and there's this AA meetings. And I was like, okay, well, I've never been to AA. I think I've seen it in a movie. I go on these meetings and I start hearing these stories. I don't put the camera on for a while because I'm a little nervous. It's what if I know somebody? What if all these scary things that are happening in my life? But I realized quickly, each one of you have me inside of you, and vice versa. And I was not alone. And I thought, wow, this is incredible to see this. Unfortunately, 4 or 5 of the people I know have passed away due to relapse, due to drugs and alcohol and addiction. So if you're here today, I think you have a responsibility to share your story, because like I said, I'm better. I'm not perfect. I'm better. And why not talk to others about that? So that's kind of been my thing here.
Don't you find that you have so much more time? Like, I stopped drinking a couple, 2.5 years ago, and I feel like my time has doubled. Like, because I had 3-day hangovers all the time. I worked at nightclubs and stuff, but I feel like I have so much more time.
It's funny. I was on my way here today, and I was laughing, saying I would have been hungover for today.
Yeah.
Actually, I wouldn't even be in this room.
Yeah.
With you incredible people.
I can't make it.
I can't make it. Or you wouldn't have had me on, because I was not at that frequency to sit next to Sophie or yourself. I was a different person. The blackouts, always apologizing. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I needed to call myself out on my own bullshit. That's fact.
I do miss cigarettes. But so is that how you each got started podcasting? Why did you start?
I think more so for myself, it was having a voice. I think there was a certain point, a certain part of me that always knew that there was a voice. I teach spin as well. So I think last year, at the beginning of 2024, I did my training to be a spin instructor, and I was not in a good place. I'm very surprised I made it through the training group. I made it through it all. I had a lot of support from them. But that I chose to do that because of what I do. I also wanted to be able to talk to people in front of a crowd. And I thought the best way to do that is to put myself in a situation where I was literally on a podium talking to people and teaching people a way of, fitness and health. But I think over time doing that, my voice changed, and the way that I taught, the way that I spoke about things changed. I used the entire year of teaching to tell my story through my classes. And every single day it was different because I felt something different every day. So I expressed how I was feeling through my classes, and it was a healing aspect for a lot of people in the room as well. And then that's how I started listening to a lot of podcasts. And then there was just one day and I was like, I'm going to try it. Why not? And then my mentor bought me a mic and I just started talking, and that was it. And that's just how it started.
Were you kind of using it as a journal or diary at first?
Very much so. Mm-hmm. It was definitely a way for me, again, same as being in the space of being in the studio. It's more of allowing myself to feel and to talk. And, with the isolation side of things, it was a way for me to actually process how I was feeling And then, I mean, I do a lot of research as well. And I think that's something that I really, really enjoy the most as well, is learning about how other people feel and also understanding how I feel and making it okay that people feel the way that they do. And I think that's a really important message that people need to hear. And again, it is becoming more and more common, which is really, really special.
And you?
Well, it's interesting. Sophie had brought up sobriety and isolation. Similar to myself. Yes, this 10 p.m. meetings I would go on Zoom. I didn't know what to do for the rest of the time. I needed to start talking to people. And I missed the social aspect of life because I completely shut it off. And it's interesting. On my 30th birthday, I had a few people over. All those people are great because they can drink and they can have one or two and go home for the most part.
Yeah.
I was different. If I were just drinking with you right now, we'd continue on, or I would continue on. And that's how my life was. I don't know why, but it was. And then, well, now I know why. It's definitely goes to like, you start peeling the layers. There's trauma. There's all these things that you got to go deep within. But for myself, it was just talking to people. I missed the social aspect, and we're in a pandemic. So of course I'm going to go on a podcast. During that time, though, I was saying about my birthday, there was all these folks out there for the party. But when the party ended, and metaphorically I'm speaking, the one person that had showed up for my birthday was a sober person I know. He was the only one that kept in touch with me and hey, how's it going? How's life? What have you been up to? And you realize, they're not bad people. We were there for a different reason. We were all together around the bar for a different reason,
Yeah.
I find that, for the record, I do drink, but I don't drink very often. I was the same. I've been in the service industry for a very, very long time. And I would catch myself out doing, you stay out all night, you do all these. That's just what happens when you drink. You party, you're in the service industry, you get caught up in it. I am now at that point when I go through bad things, I cannot drink. Because it's usually a trigger for me. Even if I was to have one drink, it would put me in a position where I would be very, very emotional. I don't know what it was. But now I'm at the point where it's very easy for me to say no to people. And that's something that I've struggled with the most, I think, is because I've had to let go of a lot of people. And I had to be okay with that because it's, it is about the people coming and going. But these people in your life, if they love you, they're going to respect what you are doing regardless. But then there's other people who may not, and it's being okay with that and trying to figure out why they're not okay with it. But again, it's, you have to look after yourself. You have to do the things, and I can go out, I can have a drink, I can go home. Typically, that's what I do.
But isn't it projections of others? Sometimes it's like how you feel about yourself is how you place it on others. For the most part, I think.
Very much so.
Like if you feel like shit, you don't feel good. Well, you know what, Jeff? I'm going to make sure that you don't feel good. Right? That's often how things happen. And you see that on social media. I'm not ready to face my own shit, but Sophie is. So let me just, bully her online or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just using you as an example. But you see that out there a lot.
Yeah. And those people that you don't talk to anymore, maybe they will go through something similar and they'll come back into your life. You never know.
And I think that, you meet people at different levels of their life as well, and people are ready to level up. Excuse me. They're either ready to level up or they're not. And that's okay. But they either find that as you said, when they're ready. But we can't force people to change, nor should we want to. But again, it's up to them to figure out their time when they need to work on themselves, or if they need anything that they want to change. It's entirely up to them. We can be there, we can help them, and we can support them and give them advice or direction, but you can never tell anyone when to start that journey. They have to figure it out on their own.
It's so true.
So did you start the MenTell at the same time as your podcast?
No. So in 2021...
and tell everyone what that is.
Sure, yeah. So in, I think it was 2021, I got the domain in May, like mentell.ca.
I like that wordplay.
Thank you. Yeah. And I didn't know what exactly it was or what I was going to do with it. Because it's that imposter syndrome. I'm not better yet. What am I going to say to you? You know, I'm a joke. Again, if I'm not feeling good yet, I'm not there to say anything because it's just, I'm not being authentically me. So I was working through my stuff and, 2023 comes around and I was talking to a JTF2 sniper. So on special ops, he's retired, a good friend of mine, Sean. And Sean, I've looked up to him as a mentor in many ways, how he's lived his life and, like action speaks louder than words and all of these things. And I said to him, I said, hey, I want to do this MenTell thing. June's Men's Mental Health Month. I want to do something. And I said, but I'm so scared. I'm scared I'm going to fall flat. He says, so what? Who cares if you do? It's like, we're here. Don't worry. I said, all right. So I made my first video and MenTell is basically focused on Men's Mental Health Month, but we do content year round. And, we realized guys don't speak up to one another. We hold it in. We had to break that stigma. We put this alpha male dominant energy around, but oftentimes, it's toxic. It goes down into your relationships, your work, your family, everything, in different ways. And I thought, okay, if we can break that, peel that layer for someone and say, hey, you know what? Let's get first responders, the toughest alpha guys you see physically looking, out there to speak and say, give me a 30-second clip to anybody. Give me a 30-second clip of what's one thing you do for your mental health. I don't want the negatives because we can all talk about that. Give me one thing because that little tip, again, I was talking about that scroll economy we're in. If you can pause for that 1 second to get that tip, you can move on with your day. So you had thousands of men from across Canada, actually across the world now, that have put that video up or that picture because sometimes they don't want to make a video. They'll take a picture of their dog. My dog's good for my mental health. Hey, that's fine. You want to write something? I like to read. Great. And I think, it helps, again, break that stigma because out of the 4,000 reported suicides in Canada, in Canada, 75% of the suicides are men. So how do we reduce that? How do we eliminate that, break that, shatter the stigma? It starts with the silence, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's incredible.
Yeah, because when people talk about it, it's like so embarrassing if you're a man. Between men, you see it like, oh, making fun. I can't think of something.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So how do you feel about it then? This like the stigma based around mental health, or specifically even within yourself. How do you find it, or do you feel comfortable talking to people about it?
Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't have when I was younger, for sure. But I was working in nightclubs and stuff where it was a different atmosphere, for sure. I didn't have a lot of support in that way. So I think now it'd be a lot easier. And things like you're doing pop up, and that helps. Mm-hmm.
Well, we have Bell Let's Talk, and it's great, but it's one day.
Yeah. And it's like a marketing
thing. Absolutely. It's a marketing ploy. And then there's the Canadian Mental Health Association, and they're doing the best they can from an institutional standpoint. However, if you're on who's going to follow the Canadian Mental Health Association and just look at those pictures that are, those standard pictures that say, here's the number, get help. Like no one's just going to do that. It doesn't happen. You need to know maybe Sophie and then Sophie's friend of a friend. And then you're like, hey, I know Sophie, she does this. We have to be real. We have to have real people doing these things instead of the stock photos, the stock images. You need real people talking about this.
Yeah.
Other than coming from the marketing department.
And younger, I think. Because every time I hear a story like this, it's always like what we're saying. Like,
what are you trying to say here, man?
Like way younger.
Okay.
There's so much lost time. Like people could start earlier. I wish people would. I wish I did.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think that, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I turned 35 yesterday.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Thanks.
Happy belated.
Yeah.
Well, and at our age, when we were in our, 18, 19, things were very, very, especially in the service industry. And I know what it was like back home. I've been in the service industry for 20 years. I started very young, but it was never the way that the world is now. It is very different to when, compared to when we were 19, 20 years old. There was nothing like this, or at least we didn't know it. It wasn't as broadcasted and it wasn't out there as much as it is now. People talk about things a lot more and they discuss things a lot more as well. But whether or not we were just oblivious to it at that age or it just wasn't accessible, it's really hard to say in that sense. But things are, I think, shaping up around that people really, really want to try and make a difference. And I think that's important. And I feel like there's going to be people who are stuck in their own way for the rest of their lives, and that's okay. But it's a matter of what you want to achieve in your life and how you want to have the best life that you can.
Yeah, I think I also didn't care. There was probably 8 years where I was just eating Ichiban and going to work, like waking up at 5
Nothing wrong
p.m.
with Ichiban.
for every day for like months. Yeah, it just not being, I wasn't healthy for so long. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, there's still people, it's very strange just looking at the world, looking at kids these days, people in their 20s. It is crazy seeing the difference from when we were, I guess, in our 20s. Again, it was just a lifestyle, depending on what you did. Again, the service industry is a very, very different breed to a lot of other industries. And I feel like there was a lot of accessibility back then for drugs, alcohol, whereas now, things are a lot more toxic these days as well when it comes to drugs and alcohol in general. Drugs are not good for you, not that they were ever good for you, but
now they're laced.
Yeah, and it is a very, very different world. So
I remember there's this place called Coyotes back.
That's where I started.
Oh, did you? Okay. There was a 25-cent draft, or what was it, 15-cent draft? It was insane. The cost, the price, the accessibility.
Yeah.
It was a different time.
Yeah, 25-cent draft is crazy.
That's what it was.
that is insane.
Yeah.
That is actually crazy.
Well, and it's so different that everything is always being broadcast. Everyone's connected at all times.
Yeah.
So that probably has a lot to do with mental health. And then a lot of people probably coming through COVID times wanted to make changes after that for their mental health. There's a lot of people were alone, and it's just like a shocking thing to go through, I guess, for people.
You can find the silver linings in everything. Right? So in that moment, yes, life sucks. All of this is happening. The world is weird. Job situation sucks. But the way I looked at it for myself was I had a minute to now go within.
Right.
The world had paused for a minute, right? So you're like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Now you have time to walk outside, because remember, we couldn't go anywhere really. So I'm walking the dog outside.
Crazy time to think about.
A lot of, And all that time to think. What are you thinking about? What are you putting in your mind? What are you feeding yourself? Because that's often, like you said, you broadcasted. I can scroll social media right now and I'll see 30 different topics. And, how does our minds operate like that? That's a lot.
Yeah. That's what I think for little kids now. It's their brains probably, if you scanned it, probably looks totally different.
Do you remember growing up, we would have pencil crayons and just those pieces of paper at a restaurant? Okay, we'll start coloring. And I'm sure they're still out there. But parents are just giving these kids iPads.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes hey, just look out the window. Count the cows.
They're probably not even out there anymore. I bet the companies don't want to pay for that anymore. So
Yeah, the paper and color. Yeah.
yeah,
All right, yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Let's bring that back.
Kids are so exposed to, it's insane. To think about what we're exposed to, they're exposed to the same thing. But we're adults. We've spent 35 years dealing with the way that the world has gone, whereas they have absolutely no idea. I do believe that our generation is probably one of the last best generations to live through what we did. The 90s was one of the best eras. The 80s and the 90s, not that I lived in the 80s for very long, but the 90s specifically and the early 2000s is just a time.
It was a vibe. Yeah.
that no one will ever forget, and kids these days will never understand. Before phones, before anything. And I even find with when I was in high school, I was bullied in high school a lot. I went to 3 different high schools. And I kind of look back and I was bullied, and I couldn't imagine what it would have been like if there was social media. Like thinking about that and how I felt at that age as well, I didn't know. I had no idea what to do with myself. I never told my parents. I never told my mom. I never told my sister. Whereas now there's social media and there's bullies online and there's these photos and there's Photoshop. There's everything.
And they're vicious.
Yeah, they're ruthless. Kids are ruthless.
You know, when you used to go home, that was probably your safe spot, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
Now it comes home with you, right? That's the thing. They don't have that barrier.
Yeah.
And you're right about like the Photoshop or, well, now cloning with AI and voiceovers. Like it's scary out there.
Yeah, I was looking into some AI stuff for the podcast. You can record yourself for 60 seconds and they have a perfect clone of your voice. You can just type your podcast. You don't even have to do a podcast anymore.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
It
so
is.
you could probably use that negatively and you can use it positively. So
I
that's
think.
Sorry. You go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I was going to say that's something that we have to think about too. There's a lot of positives, like mental health discussions seeping into that social media stuff for them too. And so,
Well, you can have a full discussion. I actually had a friend send me a link to I think it's called Lightwork or something, and it's AI generated, and you basically have a therapy session. They ask you. There's just a prompt of saying, "How do you feel?" And then they dive deep into, okay, why do you feel this way? So let's bring this up. And the things that they structure, like I did it for an hour because I was
Wow.
so intrigued.
yeah, I'll do that.
And yeah, and it was actually incredible for me because I feel like I learned something completely different. And I mean, I really, really like to express on my podcast is it's a lot of what I talk about is perspective. And I think it's really important that you really look at the different perspectives of everything that you do, everything that you can hear, everyone's opinions, anything, it doesn't matter. But I think it's really important that you do have more than one perspective on just one thing. It's like you're not narrow-minded. And I obviously tried it and I loved it, and I haven't done it again, but I got a lot of different perspectives of how I was feeling and things that I was doing because I've got 5 jobs. It's like, okay, well, why am I putting my time between 5 things when I could be doing one thing here and my company and my podcast here? But I learned that it's all of these things I'm doing are because I'm learning something completely different from everything that I'm doing. And it was the AI generator perspective that is breaking down every single feeling that I have.
That's incredible.
Which
Wow.
is, yeah.
Therapy is expensive.
It very much so is.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
If you
something
need it.
like that would be really
Yeah.
helpful to make it more affordable for people. Because I've been a lot. I have, healthcare plans and sliding scales here and there, but it's not affordable for everybody.
No, it's
helpful.
expensive. But it's a great assistant, isn't it? Because you can start talking to it and like figuring yourself out, then ask yourself those critical questions. People say AI is going to stifle creativity or critical thinking. I disagree. You just find a different way to use it. And if you're narrow-minded, that's you're never going to grow. You have to just be open and say, okay, let's try this. I mean, we had a horse and buggy, then we went to an automobile. We used to be in the yellow pages. Now we go on Google. And now, obviously, you're going to ChatGPT. A lot of the younger generation is to search things because you can search anything and break it down to your level of understanding. Because sometimes I might understand what this whole Google search is all about. But if I want to know, like, what this lamp's made out of, well, it'll break it down.
Yeah. I was thinking about that earlier because you do a lot of work with AI. And I was thinking there wouldn't be a way to stop AI anyway.
The genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah, it's like a horse trying to stop the engine from existing. Like, oh, my job.
People are afraid of resistance. People are afraid of change, and they resist it. However, I think the people that are learning AI, like ourselves right now and playing around, you have to. Because if we don't do it, the next generation is, or the person next to you is. So you need to like embrace it, but still have your own thoughts, I think. I use it for creativity, idea generation. And then I go back and think about it. Is this something I want to do or not?
Yeah.
I actually went to a conference a couple of years ago. Back home, it was a long time ago now, I guess, but was managing gyms, and one of the speakers at the conference was
Alex?
no, it was, I actually can't remember who it was, but it was a very well-known speaker. This was back in Australia, but it was basically, this was before AI and it was before any of that, but it was more, if we don't allow it, like you will fall behind, basically.
Because
And
someone will allow it.
yeah, exactly. Because it's like the way that it is going, the momentum that it has, it's never going to stop. And I mean, this was, again, well before AI. And it was just the way of, social media, the way that social media is going, the way that everything is going in the world. It's like you have to keep going with it, with business, with anything, because people are going to do it anyway.
They're gonna, and they do already. I mean, you can see sometimes when things are AI generated.
Yeah.
I feel like it's really hard to tell the difference sometimes.
Now, yeah.
Which is,
every day it's better.
Yeah. It just gets better and better. It's crazy.
And we're at the tip of the iceberg only. Think about that. Like, this is just the beginning.
And that's just what's available to you. Like there's stuff that paid more stuff. That's,
absolutely.
Yeah,
And it's interesting is I would call this era, this beautiful time we're in right now, the silent camera era. So this is like before CGI and all the crazy film equipment we have today. This is the silent era of the film. So this is the beginning of it all. And I think if you can just figure out what you like in it, you can use it to your advantage. I mean, you know those prompts, or not prompts, comment here this word on somebody's social media, and then you'll get it automatically in your DMs.
Yeah.
That's all AI automation. And it helps streamline your business. You can capture the lead of the email address. Now you can retarget that, and like say Sophie's got her branch, you can utilize that and say, hey guys, I have a new line coming out. She has a list of people in her email address that maybe are not seeing social media right now, taking that break, but they're still going to check their email. So if it's like,
use that.
Yeah, interesting.
but there's a dark side to AI that is very scary.
Yeah, but there's a dark side to the internet. There's a dark side to...
There's a dark side to holding a pencil.
Yeah, I guess so.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where to go from there, from that heavy AI talk.
Where do you see AI being used?
Like, how do I use it, or where do I?
Where do you see it in, like, say, in business? How about this? Let's talk about this. The service industry. Where do you guys see it?
Oh.
That's like the last industry to really be affected by it. That's like a people first industry. Maybe like with the iPads, people are walking around.
Well,
with
not
iPads,
like that.
but...
Mainly, I guess, you know how there's Open Table.
Right.
Or there's Skip the Dish. From that side, or, I don't know, the POS that you guys use in the industry. Could you see AI helping those issues that you guys always run into? Well, that's not what the order was. Or pull the receipts, like all of that. Could that ever be automated? Or is that...
There was things like a timer would pop up, like if you haven't been to a table in a while, or what the normal amount of time.
I feel like the service industry would be a difficult one to...
Yeah.
Although I did have this, it's not really on the same path as AI, but I had this conversation with my boss last night at the restaurant, and he was just more, he was a little bit concerned about, New Year's resolutions with just inflation and people, young kids not wanting to drink alcohol and the effects that it's going to have on businesses. And, it's like COVID had such an effect on everything. Because everything shut down, and now it's like kind of at the point that where is the service industry going? And personally working in the service industry still, even though I work in the service industry very minimal, the way that it's changed and the way that it is very, very different, and it just, certain places just will not survive.
Wow.
Because of, inflation, but also people don't want to work. People don't want to be there. There's also not very, there's people.
Is that still happening in the industry?
Yeah. And people aren't very nice sometimes. Like, I've had a lot of instances. I actually quit a couple of months ago because I just had a night and I was like, I'm a human being and I'm not going to tolerate someone talking to me like this, like a customer. And it's just crazy the way that things have changed in that way too. It's always been like that. It's customer service. But seeing, the generational changes, I saw it in Australia a long time ago. I started working in nightclubs when I was 16. I made a lot of money from the age of 16 to 21, 24. But back home, the tipping stopped because the minimum wage went up, and then it just continued to go up. So people just stopped tipping. And then 10 years later, I moved to Canada, and it's 15 years later, I moved to Canada, and the same thing is happening, but minimum wage doesn't go up. So it's like I see the generational changes from Australia, which happened 15 years ago. People stopped tipping, but you made more money. And then now it's just people are just not very nice. They expect a lot when you give I know this is completely off topic.
The entitlement?
Of the AI. Yeah, it is the entitlement for sure.
That's what we're here for. Any topics,
going
okay.
completely off topic. Yeah. But that's just something that I realized in the service industry too. And I think it has always been a really, really special industry. I think it's very, very underrated because, people like to go out. People like to go out for food. They'd like to have, an experience, but they expect a lot because
they forget the human element.
Yeah, the human aspect of it. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how that's come to that point of, we are actually human beings and we are there to provide a service, and we do provide a service. So
it's interesting though, because it's like if somebody's disrespecting you, oftentimes I've heard in the service industry, it's, well, you're being polite back to them, and you're trying to deal with them, but you got to go home with that feeling. How do you guys ever kind of de-stress yourselves away from that? Because that messes with you.
I've never thought about. I was like a bar assistant for so long, just mopping and stuff. And I never thought about that. I was just a piece of furniture, but a cog in the machine kind of thing. And it was normal, I guess.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah, now I wouldn't do that.
So when did you stop? When did you get out of the industry then?
So I have a son who's 15. When he was younger,
Oh,
it was
wow.
hard to work till 6 a.m. kind of thing. So I left nightclubs, went to bars, and then I moved into like banquets, hotels kind of thing for a while. And then my department shut down 2020 for some reason. And then after that, I didn't go back to the industry. I went into home sales. They just wanted someone who's good with people, and I guess it transfers well.
So are you a realtor, Jeff?
No, I work for a builder.
A builder, okay.
Yeah.
I personally think that I think it's really important that young kids or, young adults spend at least 3 months in the service industry just to really, really see what it's like.
Yeah.
Because it is a very, very different world. It gives you communication skills. It gives you it's common sense too. You learn a lot, and 3 months is something that you would only need for someone to kind of get.
And pressure, working under pressure when it's busy. If you're always in a panic, it's good to learn that.
Yeah, because it does in turn help you later on in life. But I do think that's something that's really, really important. I don't think that it happens a lot or as often as it should, but I think I just remember the experience that I had at the restaurant when I actually quit because of a bunch of women quite older than me and the way they spoke to me because they were incredibly intoxicated. And I literally cried. I was like, I'm like, I don't come to work for this. This is not acceptable. And they were actually removed from, it was it's a restaurant too. They were removed from the restaurant. But that is something, again, I never even thought about taking that home with me either. I never even thought about that until you just asked me. But that's also something that people have to take home with them. Sometimes you work in a dive bar, you work in the industry, no matter what career you work in, really, you're still going to deal with people who are not going to be happy with you. But, every industry is very different too.
I would say there's this quote. It's like, treat, the person that opens the door or the whatever server the same way you would treat a CEO or somebody you're at dinner with. So if I'm with somebody and they're an ass to the server or somebody, I'm like, okay, you've already unveiled yourself. Because that's character. That's who you are. Like if you're treating people like shit, you're going to treat me like that one day here. So
Yeah.
I read something, I feel like I see it quite often actually. It's, the universe always removes people from your life or, they heard what they were saying behind your back. It's like, God or the universe, whatever, however you kind of see that, it's that person was removed from your life for a reason, and or because that person, you know, they heard what they were saying about you. And I feel like that's a very profound thing to think about as well, is that there's always a reason why people come in and out of your life. Yeah. There's always that reason behind it.
I always think there's like guardian angels, call me whatever, but there is something greater than us, you know? There has to be, because, I mean, who protects us during these times, or when, you know, we're in absolute despair and facing adversity? How do we deal with those situations? There's somebody out there. And you said, like, you know, why didn't we step across that rail track and fall and the train come, metaphorically? Mm-hmm. Why not? Why? Who saved us? Right? Somebody saved you. Yeah.
Well, I'm woo-woo as hell, so I believe in all that sort of stuff.
You're what?
Woo-woo.
Oh, okay, good. I love it. So that's awesome.
I don't know that expression.
Woo-woo? No,
like
big moon girl, universe. I believe in it all.
Okay.
So, I mean, I feel like everyone has a different.
Recharging the crystals.
Yeah.
It's God, universe, high power. It's there. I mean, I'm a big believer in it purely because of the things that I have seen in my life as well, and the things that I've experienced, for sure.
What is the dark side? What's, for both of you, what's one good thing and what's the dark side of the service industry from working in it?
Do you want to go first?
You go first.
Well, I met like hundreds of people. So, yeah, not hundreds, more than
thousands,
hundreds.
probably.
But I worked with hundreds of people. It's a high turnover, and it was like 10 years. So, I mean, I'm a lot more comfortable with people than a lot of people that I meet. And then I guess the dark side would have been how the culture was in the industry at the time. It might be better. I'm out. I don't know. And it was like more, everyone was blacked out all the time kind of industry. I wasn't like in fine dining. So
I don't think fine dining changes that either, to be honest. I mean, I could be wrong, but I would say I think my biggest upside has been the community that I've built with my company specifically. I do believe that I wouldn't have been able to build what I have here without the industry, because that's how it all started, of the supporters, my friends. And I came here, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know a soul when I moved to Canada. I just moved here by myself.
I never asked why you came here, why you chose Calgary of all places.
I originally moved here for Stampede.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Like to work at a tent?
Yeah. So I was originally going to work at a tent, and I was interviewed at Knoxville's, of all places.
Okay.
And then I ended up a job to open a bar fell in my lap. So I was very, very lucky, and I ended up choosing that. And then I was there for 3.5 years.
How did you find the Knoxville's tent from Australia?
So I managed gyms when I was back home, and one of my members, one of my girlfriends, she was from Edmonton.
Okay.
So she was living in Australia, and she put me in contact with someone here.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of booked a flight, and I just left.
That's amazing.
Quit my job and just left.
It is. Because most people from Australia come here for the mountains, like Banff, you know, it's like all Australian people.
There's a lot of reason why I'm not there. Yeah. So
New Zealand, Australian.
Yeah.
But, and I mean, I didn't intend on staying either. I was only really meant to be here for the summer, and then I was going to travel, and I didn't expect to be away for longer than a year away from my family.
You loved it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, well, within 3 months, that's when I went to my employer and I just said I want to stay.
Calgary's home now.
Calgary's home, so I got.
Do you think you'll move on to another city eventually?
I think so. Yeah, I do feel like a big part of me has outgrown Calgary, has outgrown the industry in Calgary in a good way. It's really, I think it took me a long time to really process that, because this is my home. This is what I've built for almost 7 years. And that's a very, very long time. And everything that I've gone through with, you know, my permanent residency, I'm now doing my process for my citizenship. But outgrowing a home again is another life process to.
But maybe it's another level now in your own life, and it's not. Oh, I'm better than anybody. That's the thing. It's just for my own good.
Yeah. And
so, would you look at like Vancouver and Toronto or another country?
If I never thought if I was gonna, like I always said to myself, if I was gonna leave Calgary, I would leave Canada. I think now I have kind of changed my mind a little bit in that sense, but I think I'm just going to travel a little bit this year and see and work remotely as often as I can and kind of see what feels right. Again, I don't know if Toronto is for me. I lived in Ontario a long time ago when I was younger. I didn't like it. It wasn't for me.
You can be a travel influencer too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
true.
that I miss the water. I mean, and obviously know Vancouver's a place where there's water.
Cold water.
Well,
Yeah.
my dad's there right now as we speak, and he was sending me pictures today. It's snowing.
Yeah, it snowed today.
Oh,
He's like, Zach, look at all these pictures.
oh my
I
gosh.
said, how are they driving out there? He's like, terrible.
I was there once, and it snowed maybe a centimeter, maximum centimeter. Everything was closed.
Just shut
Every
down.
bar I went to closed. The roads were closed. People were crashing everywhere. People had umbrellas out. They had no idea what to do.
No, it's true. Vancouver is beautiful, but it's so dark. And if you like London, you'll like Vancouver. It's great. And then summertime, obviously, you got that window. But the rest of the year, it's just clouds.
Yeah, and expensive.
Yeah, that's true.
I struggle with I think that's something about Calgary too is, I mean, today, what is minus 30, minus 25?
Right. Yeah.
But it's so nice out.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's freezing, but you look outside and it still just looks beautiful. And I think that's a lot of the reason why I stayed. And I do believe that if I had ended up in a different city, I'm not sure that I would still be in Canada. I don't know. But I mean, I think a lot of the reason why I stayed in Calgary was because of that reason for sure. The weather is, I guess, bearable. But yeah, there's a lot of sun.
So if you moved or you're going to travel, would you make travel content?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm actually I'll be in Vancouver next weekend, but I'm in Vancouver twice in March as well for the same reason. My content creator moved out there. So I'm going to spend time with her and I'll record with her and create some content with her and just have some fun out on the island.
Yeah, because we were going to talk about earlier about content, and then we never got to that.
Yeah.
How do you come up with your topics? And I guess you have guests for the most part. So, but how do you come up with the topics with them? What are some ways that you both come up
Go
with your
ahead.
content?
I think for me, it's I don't actually oftentimes look up what the guest does or learn about them, because then you know, right? Because you're like, okay, well, I'm going to ask you the same questions, or I might not. I don't want to go to ask them, hey, what was your job about? Like, who are you? So I just like to wing it, and we press record, and I had to let them know it's not live. So again, like the pressure's off, and let's just talk about anything.
Yeah.
There's no questions I have. Because oftentimes I've tried the question thing and it never goes according to plan, and it seems very robotic.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
what I do is
I've been through that too.
Some can do it really well. I'm just not. I don't have that flow with there. So what I'll do is I'll put a piece of paper on right beside me, and I'll have my pen, and I make like a wave, and I try to kind of keep things going. Okay, like we talked about this, and I went down. Kind of keep it's called the 3-act structure. So 25%, 50, 25. And basically, I'm trying to keep the conversation in the middle to have the depth, and then wind down, and then in the beginning, obviously, wind up. So
I don't do all that.
no,
I
it's
wing
a
it.
metaphorical thing. I just kind of keep in my
I tell
mind, yeah.
people it's kind of like a blind date when you go on
Ooh, I
my
like
show.
that.
It's just we're getting to know each other.
Even on my way here, I was like, oh, well, I don't know. Should I bring something with me in here? Because I don't know what Jeff's going to do to me.
Flowers?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
What about you? How do you come up with it?
I honestly, I feel like it's something that if like, again, throughout the week, it's just an experience or something that I feel within the week. And then I just start thinking about it. But I also do, like when I started the podcast, I always kind of took notes because I wanted to have a little bit of a structure. And I feel like with the depth of some of the conversations that I do have on my episodes, it is easier to follow when I have notes as well. But it's always something I'll hear something, I'll see something, I'll have a conversation with someone, and that'll be my episode. And that's it. And it just goes from there. And my first guest that I had last week, we have known each other for 20 years, but even listening to her talk it was just an incredible experience for me. And I think I sent her 5 questions or 6 questions and said, are you comfortable with me asking you these questions? And that was it. And from then it went from there. I didn't even have to look at the questions. I already knew where I wanted to go with the conversation because it just flowed so naturally.
It was really good. I have a problem when I have people I know. We're too comfortable. There's inside jokes. It doesn't really show well.
Right.
And you didn't do that at all.
No, well, I think that I think with what I'm doing right now, I also just today recently I reached out to another friend of mine who I've known for 15 years, and I want her to tell her story for herself because of the things that she's been through, and I've seen her been through that as well. And I think that it's for what I want to have, my platform has been for me. It's been a therapy for me to talk, but I want to build a platform where people can tell their story and they're comfortable being vulnerable and they're comfortable saying, this is what I did, this is what I've been through, this is how I feel. So that I think that's kind of what I'm building off is where I've started is, okay, now I want to bring in people who feel comfortable telling their story and telling the R-rated version of their story. And it's whether or not I've known you for 15 or 20 years or I don't know you at all, there is a level of comfort that I want people to be able to feel. And I've been very lucky in the sense that I can actually bring things out in people. People feel comfortable talking to me. And I think that's been one of the biggest things that I've learned, and bringing that, letting people allow that.
Have you talked to anyone about doing your show and they're kind of nervous because of their job or they don't want to talk about some things?
Not yet, no. I think, again, one thing that I really try to express throughout the podcast is that it's real. Mm-hmm. Like you are authentic to you. If this is who you are, it can be R-rated or not. Mm-hmm. And it can be explicit, but like if this is your story, tell it. If you've got something to tell, then I think it's important. You can take your clothes off for money. You can do whatever you feel comfortable doing or talking about. I think it's really important that you're a human being. Mm-hmm. And you've been through a lot, or you've gotten to this point for a reason. So why not talk about it?
And so many other people can benefit from that.
Yeah. It's like a memoir of who you are and being comfortable with that. And again, it brings you to a point in your life that you survive. Because there's people out there that unfortunately they don't, and that comes back to suicide and, mental health. And I have lost friends to suicide, and I've almost lost a friend and she survived. Mm-hmm. And there's so many different levels to how people feel and what they go through. And if no one lets them talk, how are they meant to recover from it? So,
and oftentimes it's, we could be smiling, but you don't really know. It's just what we're wearing. It's what we look like. We're just a shell, right? This is just a capsule. It's like our souls live on. So within that, who is that person? So if you treat people like shit and that person goes home with that, I mean, you might have not realized it then, but after a while, like it's all a part of your journey, right? It's just chipping away at you. Finally, there's going to be a breaking point. And in the service industry, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but when COVID happened and there's a pandemic, a lot of people reached their breaking point and they were done with life. I would hear about that often in the service industry. People were just ending their lives because now what? Because you had to sit with yourself, and it's a scary thing. Mm-hmm. How do we become preventative and be on the offense instead of the defense? What is it? Eminem, 8 Mile. When you free yourself, and in the last rap scene or the battle, he just goes out and he says to that guy, I am this person. Yeah, I suck. Yeah, I grew up in this like hood place or whatever. That guy had nothing to say back to him. He could not diss him out. You freed yourself from, the attacks, the things that you're afraid of. It's out there. Who cares?
Yeah. I think I do that my whole life as a defense mechanism anyway.
What's that?
Yeah. Like self-deprecating humor. Look at my hair right now.
I love it.
Yeah, what's wrong with it?
Got some Conan vibe going on.
That's who you are.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. I hope he watches. Shout out Conan.
Just
That'd
tag
be
him,
awesome.
see what happens.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, but it's true. Once you are able to let go of that and then
Easier
it doesn't
said than
matter.
done, though, isn't
Yeah,
it?
but then it doesn't matter what they say.
It takes a lot of building a foundation, not only building a foundation, but it takes a lot to be able to get to that point as well, and allowing yourself to actually free yourself of all of that. And it takes, but if you don't have the methods for that either, like, I mean, I'm lucky I have the methods, but I mean, I've been trying to do this for a very, very long time. I've been working on myself for a very long time, but there's people who have no idea where to start. And some people don't start because they don't know.
Yeah, and there needs to be, like, I think men and women need different specialized messages for that, because people don't want to say that because, you know, we're the same, but there's differences and you have to go about it differently, right?
I find I actually, over 50% of my listeners are men.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Which I really, really love, because I think that, again, my message isn't just for men. I mean, for women, sorry. It's not just, it's for everybody. It's for young women. It's for young men. It's for everybody. And that has stayed since the beginning. It stayed that it's been over 50% men.
I love that. You know, that is amazing to hear, because I think people need to know that. So with MenTell, 64% of the followers are women.
Really? Well, I have more
How
women.
cool is that? That it doesn't matter, because oftentimes I've also got the feedback, well, you should also be targeting women and having women on to, like, why did you create MenTell? Why couldn't you have just created Alltel?
Well, because it wouldn't sound as catchy.
Well, that too, right? But like, it's also, we're different in our ways. I mean, we all live on planet Earth, so we have to work together. We have to live together. Can we be better guys? Can we be better, you know? It's interesting, isn't it? How sometimes you have to categorize things, niche down to actually find that. Yeah. It's like specializing, right? Like if your knee was hurting, you're not going to go see an optometrist.
Yeah. The broad messaging wouldn't connect with everyone. Like, if you try to connect with everyone, you connect with no one for the most part.
It's funny, because that's how, especially with my clothing company, it's like the message from the beginning of where it started as a snowboarding brand, but the message over the years has been a little bit, like, I guess, more of a roller coaster, because I didn't know where I wanted it to go. And then I started the podcast, and there's more of a direction in now to intertwine my clothing company with that. Is my message is, you know, mental health, or being realistic and living a lifestyle that involves the ups and the downs. And I mean, going into with my clothing brand is obviously the changes that I am going ahead with, and the things that'll be another story for another day. But it's more, I found within the podcast of what I wanted to do and the direction I wanted to go. And even with my clothing company, I would host charity events and Movember events and raise money for, you know, I teamed up with Calgary Suicide Prevention one year, raised a bunch of money with them, and donated, you know, made a product, and 100% of proceeds went to Movember. So it's like all of it was really lost in translation, how it started as a snowboarding brand and then kind of went to mental health, and it's been a little bit up in the air. I know where I want it to go now, but it's, you know, this podcast is also helping me with the direction of figuring that out as well. And the structure's not quite there for my company, but it's there for me and the podcast and the message that I am trying to get across for anyone out there who is going through it.
That's good that it can grow with you, and it can actually have personality to the brand. Like some brands can't grow in any direction. Too many people involved. Can't donate to different charities because they are leaving other charities out. So,
well, I think that one of my biggest things, I mean, my hoodie that I'm wearing is damaged goods, and I made a choice to vicariously live my life through my brand. And that's definitely still the direction that it's going. And I mean, it's always going to shift and turn, but it's authentic to me. And again, creating and designing is it's different. It's difficult when it's shifting and turning with, you know, your personality and who you are becoming. And there's always, that's why it's just, you know, I spent the last year really trying to figure out what I want to do with it. But that's the brand itself it's me. And it goes with the podcast, it goes with the clothing company, and it continues to grow with me.
So is this PPG?
It is, yes.
This is amazing. Okay, this is amazing. I saw the back of it when I came. I was like, that is an awesome hoodie.
Yeah.
So where could we find that? Is it online?
It is online,
Okay.
yeah. So ppgapparel.com online. Again, the website has not been looked at for quite some time, unfortunately, but it is still up there. The information is up there. The products that I have created are up there. It's something I'm really, really proud of as well, from, you know, the direction that I did take it with the damaged goods collection. I still haven't closed out that collection yet. So I still will. Again, that closes out a time in my life that I really, really struggled. It was one of the worst times in my life. The product was obviously damaged goods, and then I went to Thriving in Chaos. And the last product that I will be releasing is a Loveless tee, Loveless hoodie, but that closes out that timeline that I struggled with the most in my life.
And then you're done? That's
For that collection,
for that collection,
for the
okay.
damaged goods collection, that will be it, yeah. But that's obviously what I'm working on, is how to restructure the next stage of where it's going.
You know, it's like when you think about like Steve Jobs, it's so hard to be simple, isn't it? Because you can like go this way in a brand, and then you have to really go down and figure out what works with you, and what's true to you in that moment. Because I bet you your first PPG product is amazing, but it's not who you are today.
Absolutely not. No.
So neat.
And it's crazy to see like even the direction that I went and how far it has come. And I will never not be proud of how far it's come. There's obviously, you know, I'll never do products, you know, the first thing I ever did, I'll never do it again. But again, I had no idea what I was doing.
So get your hoodie now.
Yeah, I'm gonna link it below.
It's just a matter of, I had no idea what I was doing. It happened as an accident, and it's, you know, continues to grow, and it's been almost 4 years now. But I always said to myself that I would never give up on the clothing company, and it's a lifestyle brand, realistically, and it's my lifestyle. And if people resonate with that, and then they do. If they don't, then they don't. It's just a direction that it's going.
How do you have all this energy to learn podcasting, to teach spin, to have your jobs?
Honestly, sometimes I ask myself the same thing. I think that it's what I'm passionate about. It's me. And that's what keeps me going. And I mean, obviously, cutting back on drinking, cutting back on doing all of that, actually really finding what I want in my life. That's what makes me happy. And I wake up every day now. Of course, I'm not where I want to be. I could be much further ahead. But I make the choice every single day. I wake up and I'm very, very happy. And the podcast has been the biggest thing to put me in a place of happiness for where I am now, and continues to make me want to create.
There's like purpose, there's intention,
Yeah.
there's this
Yeah.
divinity, divine energy.
Mm.
Do you don't waste time then? Like, do you not scroll on the internet or watch TV or any of that?
The only time I do. I definitely do. I find a lot of the time that I am scrolling, I'm looking for inspiration.
That's good.
And I find a lot of it at that time. I've really tried to cut back on spending a lot of time on social media for that reason as well, is because it's time consuming.
Oh my gosh.
And I value my time because I put a lot of time into the 25 things that I do on a daily basis or anything. But I find that, I listen to a lot of content. I listen to a lot of other people talk, and I learn a lot, and I study a lot. I research a lot on my own. If I want to learn something, I'll research it because it's something that I'm really, really passionate about. And it does help with what I want to talk about. Teaching is obviously a passion for me as well. It keeps me very, very healthy, mentally, physically, and it helps other people. So
it's really good to use your time with intent.
And I struggled with that for a very long time.
Well, people pleasing, the power of no.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage your time?
Oh, depending on the day. I had to learn how to say no.
Mm-hmm.
I was worried, I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings. I was going to upset them. But I had nothing left in me. There was just pouring out of an empty cup.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do, right? So I learned to not spread myself so thin because I've been there. And then, again, without drinking right now, I can tell I'm like, I'm slipping. Okay, recalibrate, get back up. And not every day is like, okay, 1% better every day. It's impossible. We're human beings, right? Or like that hustle culture or the grind culture. It's like, it's the goal.
Yeah. It's
but
not
sometimes,
realistic.
honestly, I don't want to read a book. I don't want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay with that, just for that 1 second. And then I'm like, okay, I feel guilty. But,
that's good.
Absorbing content, learning is so fun. Like, to me, I get weird, like history I like. And learning from the history, learning, the other day I was learning about cadence and like rhythm. Like, so how, like say Obama or Winston Churchill spoke, it's like 3 ways, like 3 words at a time and pause, 3 words, pause. So interesting,
Yeah.
To me, at least. I don't know.
I tried to sign up for Masterclass. I got a year subscription. Never opened it once. So
I got rid of a lot of subscriptions.
I don't know. Actually, it turns out nobody has time for video. Like, I do my video podcast, but everyone I talk to listens.
See, it's funny that you say that because a lot of my listeners or a lot of my friends that support and listen have told me to video because they resonate more with watching.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I feel like I don't necessarily have the time to sit and watch someone talk because I listen when I drive. I listen when I'm doing stuff. It's easier for me to just listen. Like, videos don't necessarily, they're fun to watch if I have the time. But again, I think I can utilize that time as well. But it's funny, a lot of my listeners are video watchers.
If I want like facial expressions and the movements.
Yeah, they connect more.
It's good, definitely for clips and stuff. It's easily shareable. But that's why I didn't use Masterclass anyway. I don't have 4 hours to learn stand up from Kevin Hart or I can't think of them. I never opened it. The theory of it is really good. Have you ever used it?
No, but I know what the theory of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a good idea.
Totally. I mean, there's some great people on there.
But I end up listening to podcasts or an audiobook or something.
The reason why I would love to video record is for the clips.
Yeah.
For sure. I still have no idea how to do any of that. I feel like it would
We'll
be.
tell you. You're the expert. You've done a lot more than I have. So
in-person stuff, we'll talk to him. Video stuff, we can chat.
Yeah. And I think that that's obviously, it does because I think the small clips also help people see what you're about, I guess, on social media. I think that whether or not they watch the entire video on, Spotify or Apple Music or Apple, whatever it is, I think that, seeing the small clips is what attracts people on as a reel or as a TikTok.
It's hard to compete with Netflix. Like, if you want someone to commit to an hour to watch something for an hour and a half or watch the new whatever episode of whatever's out, it's hard to compete with them.
Well, it's interesting to see that the content shift. So I was watching some guy and he was talking about, okay, either you do a video podcast or you do an audio podcast, but perfect one. So like if you're doing audio, really, how close is your mic? How far is it? All these things, because with video, now you got this. Now are you putting at 24 frames per second, 60 FPS? Like, there's so much. Is it 4K? Is it 1080p? Right? And then you put into editing and watch that camera is not on the same frame per second.
Yeah.
Right?
I've had so many things happen.
I know.
But that's how you learn, I guess.
It's a learning curve. And I think it's,
No, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry.
How long have you been doing this for then? You've obviously got 2 seasons.
Like a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what made you get into this?
Originally I wanted to do a vlog with my son.
Right.
Not this at all. And then that kind of just fell apart. He didn't want to do that. And then the idea of a podcast came up. And now I'm really invested. I can't stop now.
Yeah, you are.
But I really like hearing from anyone who knows more than me on something, I guess. And it's given me the opportunity to have those long conversations.
Knowledge is power.
You know, it's funny because I get the question, well, you're not making money from it. Why do you do it? It takes up so much time. Why do you want to do this with your life? For the both of you, what's your answer to that? Obviously, I think we know why we do it, but
Yeah. I love the networking part of it. Like, that's how I met both of you. People are reaching out to me. I'm able to talk to people that I maybe normally wouldn't talk to for no reason. So that's really fun for me.
Yeah, I think that it's just a platform to, you know, for me, again, I feel like it started as therapy for myself. And then it's become a platform for other listeners and for people to come in and, you know, hear that. It's like some of the messages I get is, you know, someone's story or something that I've said has resonated with them. And that's how I have, you know, by listening to other people talk, listening to other podcasts. It's how I have gotten through some of the worst times. And if that's a platform for other people, it's for me. But if it's a platform for other people and even connecting with different people as well, I love hearing people's stories. I love it.
I have people think that the reason I'm doing it is to be famous or something. My least favorite part is people actually watching or being on camera.
Yeah.
So that's not it at all. But opportunities like this.
it's a genuine connections.
Yeah. Just meeting
Because
people.
who would have thought? Well, maybe you guys would have met in the industry, but like, who would have thought I'd met great people like you guys? You know, it's super cool.
Yeah.
You just never know. It just could be that one person that really changes your perspective or changes your life. You have
It's
no
that
idea.
little thing, right? Those little tad bits, and that's layers of life, right? Some people, it's going up, down, up, down. It's like that Mario, whatever.
Yeah. So what are each of your goals moving forward with your podcast specifically? What would you like to see? Let's say a year from now we meet here again. What would you want to have changed in a year or farther? But I picked a year.
You go first. I feel like all I've been doing is talking.
That's what we're all
Yeah.
doing.
I think you put 3 podcasters together. That's all we're doing. We're gonna get you involved. You coming? Obviously, production quality needs to get a little better on my virtual side. In terms of in person, I still don't think I will go there. I think it's just time allocation. It's just easier if I can speak with that person and then move on. Because oftentimes they're not even in the city.
Do you have a problem? Sorry to interrupt. Do you have a problem with their audio and camera not being good enough?
No, not really.
Okay.
Because you can use riverside.fm now.
Shout out.
Yeah. /Zach. So get that code. But no, that's exactly, yeah. So there's from the visual quality, sound quality, got to get a little better. And in terms of from a personal side, maybe shift it a little bit in terms of, okay, we're talking about mental health, but let's lift it a little higher, like elevate the conversation. Because sometimes, we can talk about mental health and it just stays. It's like, okay, well, what else did you do to get out of it? Because you're here today. We're here today. We don't want to sit in the trenches. We're here together. Now let's talk about what did you do? Because somebody else is listening. Like you said, you were listening to all these things when you were in the darkest times. It might help somebody.
And to keep people listening in the up times. So it's not all,
from a content standpoint, we're looking at, not me personally, but the world is shifting towards hooks. And I think you hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Find the viral hook. And for the listeners, that means hey, here's 3 ways that you can work on your mental health. And then somebody will listen.
Yeah. But that's how I'm going to start this podcast. Okay. I can't believe you just said that.
Okay, great.
That's the intro. Yeah.
Yeah. So
sorry.
No worries. But you understand what I'm saying is the hooks are going to happen. It's here. I don't always like to play the algorithm game though, because that's changing and it's not genuinely who we are. Right? Because you're going to be chasing the never ending thing. It's what is it? You get someone gets a brand new car and then all I wanted to do was work for that car. They get it. Now what's next? It's this never ending cycle. When are you going to sit down with yourself and just realize I'm enough?
Yeah, I struggle with that too. When I feel like I'm plateaued, I do crazy things. I spend a lot of money. I dye my hair or whatever thing. Like I just need to keep doing something. So yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I understand that. I think that for me, I think my goal is definitely to travel and to meet people. And I mean, I actually have quite a few good connections in the sense that, like I met someone in the summer last year who was a country artist, and I am going to record with him. And I want to get to the point where I am capable of meeting people and hearing their story and traveling to be able to go and record with them. I think that's like my biggest long-term goal is, and creating content, really focus on that. It's something that I'm learning, everything I'm teaching myself. It's just me on my solo doing my thing.
I love it.
How are you with hooks?
What's your viral hook?
No idea. Still haven't figured that one out. I have no idea.
We're at an hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Well, plus the 10 minutes at the start.
That's incredible.
It goes by quickly.
It does.
I know. We can keep going. We're going to do some more episodes. Tune in, by the way. Do you want to keep going or do you want to?
I don't mind. We can take a break if you want. Yeah.
A break?
A break. Well, I don't know. Is there anything else that we need to talk about?
We'll be right back. Take a break. You want me to cut to commercial? I'll show the clips from your podcast. I'll do it right here.
Great.
We'll be back.
Was it always success after success in terms of businesses, or was there any failures along the way? And do we look at them as failures as entrepreneurs, or are they stepping stones? Later on, in hindsight, you can say stepping stones, but in the moment, it hurts. It's hard.
Oh gosh, I can say that failure's probably been my greatest teacher. Yeah. I didn't have a lot of great role models growing up, and I learned from books. I love to read or observe. So I made a lot of mistakes along the way because I felt like I'd know 5 or 10% and I would jump in, but I was all in an entrepreneurial sense. I would try things. I remember having a paper route when I was 8 and you needed to be 10 to sign up. And my dad signed for me. He's like, she's really organized. She can do this. I know she can do it. And I did it for many, many years. And for me, that was an important piece of teaching myself entrepreneurial skills. My customers were very important to me. I'd go the extra mile in a snowstorm to make sure somebody got their newspaper. But it mattered to me, bringing that professionalism, even at a young age, it really mattered to me that all my clients were well taken care of.
That is also a very sincere question that I'm asking anyone out there who is listening. Has impatience always been embedded in us as human beings? Or is this just something that we've grown over time? Personally, I grew up as a pretty impatient kid and young woman, but with the extent of the challenges that I have faced, it has taught me to bring myself back, to slow down, and to understand that patience will always work in our favor. I constantly talk about setting a foundation because with a strong foundation comes stability. Without stability, we cannot walk. Without stability, we struggle to focus, and without stability, our foundation breaks down and we break down along with it.
Something, but yeah.
And we're back. So sorry, go on.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what it was. But yeah, no, definitely talked to myself for a bit.
I told someone I went for lunch because actually people reach out to me on how to do a podcast now. Does that happen to you too? I went for lunch with someone yesterday who I want to introduce you to. I told her to follow you.
Okay.
But now people are asking me how to do a podcast. I told her to do it alone. You're not going to post it, delete it after for practice because it's hard to get comfortable at first. And that's probably why most people quit.
Yeah, I think I just kind of went in. I have no idea. But I mean, but that's how I started by writing. I started by writing about what I wanted to talk about, which gave me a lot more comfort in actually talking. And I mean, you obviously know how I record my podcast. I record my podcast on voice notes and then I just post it.
Is that what you do?
Yeah.
That is incredible.
I know. That's what I
The
said.
quality and
I know.
I would have never known.
Yeah, so I do it on voice notes on my laptop, and the way that I edit it though is usually I just talk right through. But if there's something that I really want to cut out or I don't like how I said it, I'll go back, I'll just cut it, and then I'll start again.
And are you reading it? Or just
Some of them I have, yeah, for sure. I mean, the last one I obviously didn't.
no, of course. But sometimes when you have to keep it structured of what you're trying to get that
Yeah.
message across.
Yeah. And I found, I mean, I've gone back and I've kind of obviously listened to like the first, and they're very, the way that it's progressed is nice to see within myself. Like it's nice to hear that there has been a big progression, but that's because in the beginning I was really nervous, but I didn't want to delete it and not post it. I just wanted to talk about it. So I would write it, read stuff off it, and then like just take notes and then just kind of keep going.
Pen to paper, isn't it? When you're writing. Yeah.
So I find that my pen to paper, when I read what I've written, because I love writing, when I read what I've written, some of the words are, even to me, I kind of surprise myself.
What about, you should have a blog too. Why don't you, do you have a blog?
No,
You should.
I don't even know how to start one of those.
You should go, well, it could be the same topic, and then you can use that on Pinterest to drive people to your podcast.
Or some
If
of the
you're
things you're
a good
talking about in
writer.
your podcast. Take the clip from your podcast, whatever that write up is, and post it as a quote.
Yeah, that's actually what I do with a lot of my stories too. Is
Okay.
I take kind of points from what I've talked about, and then that obviously catches the attention. It's something that a profound message or something. But I never thought about a blog. Is this something else that I'm just going to add? That
You should. I think it'll be so easy because you're already doing the podcast. It won't be a
Yeah.
lot of extra work.
right?
It'll be extra eyes and ears on your.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I have like a lot of the content again is, and as I said, I write every day.
That's incredible. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
That's what we're here for.
yeah,
Yeah. We're going to
Building the-
start a podcast group of people.
yeah.
Well, and
I love that.
because I think there's so many silos out there, and sometimes with the technicality, we're all Googling different things, and sometimes the same stuff. So why not help each other, especially from a local community standpoint? I think, like you said, you said how many just stopped after an X amount of episodes. During the pandemic, everyone had a podcast.
Right.
And then I think some got to 7, 8, and then they just stopped.
Yeah.
And because it's a lot. There's a lot of time that goes into this.
So
Even
many
if you don't
people-
love it, there is no,
Yeah.
don't look at it from the money standpoint. Yeah.
So many people also talk about making a podcast and then never even get to that point. So
I feel like I pondered on it for quite a long time, but I never thought I would pull the trigger. I never thought I would go ahead with it. And it wasn't until I found, I guess in, one of the dark days, I found this young girl that I follow. She's 22 years old. She's very, very young, and her outlook and the way she talks and she's been doing the podcast for 2 or 3 years, and it's incredible. And learning from a 22-year-old, I think, is something that doesn't matter to me. But before every episode, it would be, if you're looking at starting a podcast, and I would hear it every single episode, because I just binged 2 years of her episodes and just listened to them every single day. And every day I would hear that, if you want to start a podcast, try this. So I just downloaded it, and then I just did a bio, put a photo up, and then I left it. I created the account, and then I told my mentor about it, and he bought me a mic the next day, and then I just started.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's actually really good too. Like, so, and how long did it take? Did you practice for a while? Like we were talking about recording yourself and not.
No, I just went straight into it. I just
Good
went
for you.
right
Seem
in.
like a natural.
Yeah.
I think, and I do think that I really do believe that that's why I started teaching, is because it was for that reason. There was a level of comfort. And I mean, the first episode probably took me, an hour. It was a 10-minute episode. It probably took me an hour to kind of go through what I wanted to say. And it was written, and I read it from being written, but it's because I wanted to really get the point across. And I think with that, that's how it started, but I just uploaded it and that was it.
And you can too. You should put that at the start of your episodes. If you want to do a podcast, make a little course.
Yeah.
Tell people how to record in their voice notes.
Yeah. Because that's
amazing.
Yeah.
well, I had friends again. My
Oh, I don't know what that
So
was.
that was your phone.
It's the phone, yeah. It's fine. It's there.
Was my phone?
Cell phone.
Oh, wait. Someone's phone. Your phone.
Oh, is it my phone?
Yeah. They both fell.
Because again, I met a good friend of mine now. He's actually a very good friend of mine. I met him I was working Country Thunder, and he was one of the artists. So I reached out to him and said, what am I meant to do? How do I record? And he kind of gave me all these ideas to kind of download. I mean, he's obviously been doing this for 10 years. And then I was like, I don't know any of that. I was like, I don't know how to do any of that. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that program is. And I was like, no, I'm just on my voice notes, and just started recording. And then I listened to my voice back, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I still do it in my bedroom every day, every week.
That's amazing.
That's a good way to exit. Do you have any advice for someone who wants to start a podcast or start anything like that?
Start small.
Yeah.
Start today.
Start.
Start.
Right? That's what
Just
you hear
definitely
from everyone.
start.
Start.
Yeah.
Just do it. Where can you be reached? Let's plug some stuff. You have so much, each of you.
Well, shout out to Riverside. Get that code. What was it, Zach?
Yeah, any promo codes?
No.
For me, not yet. I mean, my podcast is A Day in the Life podcast on Instagram, and my personal is sophie.louise.mclean. My clothing company is ppg.apparel on Instagram as well, and the website is www.ppgapparel.com. There will be updates coming within time, but just one thing at a time.
And I'm going to go to a spin class.
Hell yeah.
I've never been.
Please do. YYC Cycle, come and catch me. It's a lot of fun. You can sit in the back, you can sit in the front, wherever you like.
Yeah, that'll be tough for me, but how about you?
CanadianPodcast.ca, or you can check it out on Instagram at Canadian Podcast. And for my personal, it's at YYC Zach. And MenTell, MENTELL.ca. Check it out.
Still love that. We're done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that was so fun.